Hey guys, welcome to CALLOUS Fight Night. We've got our defending champ Finchinator against our challenger, who you should all be pretty familiar with since you saw him not long ago doing this. He was the champion himself, Mushi Musha. Apparently that's what he still plays on. On some websites he just goes by Mushi now. I don't know, man. It's the same guy. Either way, we've got a pretty fast fight here. Finch is going to lead meta, going to immediately blow up, and the lead Skarm is going to stay in for Mushi, and it's just going to die. So it looks like CB meta or a YOLO Skarm. Crucially, what that does is it makes it so Mushi, who seems to very often play Spike's team, seems very leaning toward that kind of style. He doesn't get to establish any spikes. So if this is one of the teams that people criticize Mushi for, one of those teams that's very do nothing and relies super heavily on spikes to win, well, I guess he already lost because he lost his spiker on turn one without getting a damn thing down. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm hoping that Mushi has some other form of offense, some other way to win other than relying on spikes. I mean, Finch, being a tour vet that he is, if he knows anything about his opponent, he probably orchestrated this exact opening or something very close to this opening where the opponent switches to Skarm and he just booms on it from the get-go with Mushi's preferences in mind. Here, Finch does not have the advantage. The Swampert, I mean, some Zapdos wouldn't threaten it, but most of them are going to have HP Grass. This one certainly seems to. I mean, we don't know for sure that it's Grass, but, like, you've got to assume there. Would you blindly HP Ice there? That just, I mean, I guess it would be a good bluff, but I would think almost certainly, based on the way that played out, that it is in fact Grass, and it's not some sneaky bluff or what have you. Blissey did come into Zapdos here, and, well, that's not exactly the poster boy of offense. We've got a Steelix here, pretty do-nothing Mon. S-Toss, second S-Toss, and a Toxic. I thought he was going to boom there. I don't like it for Toxic as much. I mean, it's Blissey, it's Natural Cure, who cares? Man, I really don't like that Protect either. I think you Toxic again there, but I mean, at least this way, I guess he gets double Protect, but it would have worked out the same. He gets the Toxic on the Starmie, then he protects. He does lefties back up to a pretty healthy 69, giggity, but there is the double Natural Cure of the Bliss and the Starmie on the other side, so, I mean, we already know, if we didn't know already, that Toxic Spam is not going to get it done. It's not going to be an effective way to advance this game. T-Wave coming down, so he obviously knew there would be a switch, probably thinking the Zapdos there. Obviously, you don't T-Wave into Steelix thinking that you're going to do something awesome. And there's an S-Toss and a full para, sure. S-Toss again. And a Wish, which I guess the Steelix could take, but nothing overly needs it. He does pass it to the Steelix, though, so it's back up to a hundo. Finch knows Steelix is coming in, so he goes to his Pert. Going to get his Surf off against the Steelix, but he switches out of the way to Starmie. Similar looking teams here. Starmie plus Bliss on both ends. Key difference being Mushi at one point had spikes, where as of now it does not look like Finch does have spikes. He does have two unrevealed, so I mean he totally could, but this could also just be a balanced team with T-Tar and whatever else. T-Tar Rachi, T-Tar Gar, something like that. T-Tar Mence in the back. There is the T-Tar, so the question becomes, what's the last poke? Dugtrio comes to mind, Aerodactyl, Salamence, and of course it could just be Skarm. It's some kind of physical T-Tar, as he shows Earthquake here, 29% to a Starmie on the other end, out of the way we go, and Surf against Bliss. So the Starmie for both players looking to be pretty unexciting. Finch doesn't need it to spin since there are no spikes, and we don't know for sure with Finch. He could still have Last Poke Skarm, though I do doubt it with the way that this game is played out. But theoretically, there aren't spikes for Mushi to spin, and there aren't going to be either. And they're both hard-walled by the opposing Blissey, so the Starmies here, really underwhelming. Here's the T-Tar switch into the Steelix, knowing there would be a switch. He does get some lefties back for doing this, though he's probably not going to stay in against Starmie, and he doesn't. Mushi takes the aggressive route, goes for the Surf. Again, that's just going to be aimed at the T-Tar, but Finch doesn't let it happen. Recover, and soft-boiled respectively, so they're both back up to full health here. Looks like yet another grindy Mushi game ahead. His team's very defensive and do nothing, and yeah, not breaking his comfort, not breaking the stereotype here by any means. Everything very healthy on both sides, other than the two things that are down, of course. So we might be going for a while here. There's no spikes, there's no sweeper, other than a T-Tower that may or may not be DD. And the T-Tower does have a shot for Finch. The Steelix at 100% is obviously going to hinder it somewhat, but I mean, you can also Earthquake the Steelix on the switch in and wear it down. It can only take so many of those. There is a Wish Bliss on the other side, so even if you do whittle the Steelix down, it has ways to get health back, which we've already seen a little bit. It did get past that Wish earlier in the battle. I think we're probably looking at a grind here, unfortunately. I'm going to just ban Mushi from playing Fight Night because the games are always like this. Back to Starmie on Bliss as the players slow down here. It's been a pretty fast-paced game. I mean, the game itself is not progressing quickly, but in terms of the speed at which the players are playing, there hasn't been a lot of pause up to this point. And Finch still isn't pausing. It's Mushi here taking the time. I'm not clear what he's thinking about. Maybe he's trying to figure out a way to advance this game. The Blissey certainly isn't that way. So is he thinking about some fancy double switch, or is he going to try to get his last Mon in? I'm not sure what his last Mon is. T-Tar, Gengar, Dugtrio, those all make sense to me. I mean, especially with the lead Skarm, right? Unless it was a YOLO Skarm, you're begging for it to get eaten by Magneton, so maybe it's just a Dougie in the back. If it is a Dugtrio, and I don't feel very strongly about that, it could be, but I mean, there's plenty of other things it could also be. Like I said, Gengar, Aerodactyl, T-Tar, whatever. But in the hypothetical scenario where it is a Dugtrio here, that could have some amount of value. It's going to be a lot worse because there aren't spikes, but that could, in theory, in the right situation, pick off the Bliss, pick off the Starmie, pick off the T-Tar. Dugtrio could have some value here, but I think he's going to have a hard time finding the opportunity to set it up and really get something done. So we wait here. Starmie and Bliss, I'm not sure what either one thinks that they're going to be accomplishing against the other. Now, granted, if you don't have something better to do, then it is what it is. I mean, you don't switch and walk yourself into a T-Wave or a Toxic for something that doesn't want to take it just because you're not making any offensive progress. But obviously, this setup is not the way the game moves forward. And Mushi is really taking his time. He took over a minute on the previous turn. He took a little bit of time on this turn. It feels so straightforward here. I don't know. I really wonder what he's thinking about. I don't know if he's actually thinking or if it's some kind of bluff or if he's just having an internet issue or if he's multitasking, but I'm really surprised by the pause. This game in its current state feels very straightforward turn to turn. Finch has taken a couple different opportunities to sneak his T-Tar in and get lefties back, which seems to be a good plan because his Bliss has not shown Wish, could still have it, but it doesn't look like a Wish Bliss, so has to heal things up the old-fashioned way. There's a tiny amount of progress with the Surf connecting on Swampert, but it's not in any real danger here. Mushi wants to push the issue, fish for a crit, what have you, so he goes for Surf again, but Finch doesn't allow it. It's just going to be Bliss. We've got an obvious soft boil turn coming, and there it is. And now Mushi does the same thing that Finch has been doing, sneaks something in when he knows it's safe, gets a little bit of lefties back, and lets it begin to add up. So the Steelix here is going to go up to 97, and then he's going to protect. The Steelix is going to be back up to a hundo here after this turn. And it is the protect. That is a missed opportunity for Mushi. Had he been able to predict that and go for Toxic, he could have landed that on the Pert. And unless it's an Aroma Bliss, which again, it could be, we don't know. But unless it's Aroma Bliss, which is pretty uncommon these days, that Toxic probably would have stayed on the Pert for the rest of the match. And that would have been good progress. That would have been a way to move the game forward. That would have been a nice development for Mushi. But he's not able to pull the trigger and do that. So that leaves us here in basically the same place we've been for quite a few turns. 5-5, everything healthy, unrevealed for both players hiding in the back. Steelix on Pert here, they can both threaten each other. Boom and Toxic both immediately come to mind if you're in Finch's position, but at the same time, he can Surf, he can Earthquake, he could even Focus Punch here. Mushi gets the better end of the double switch turn. Zapdos on Starmie, obviously Zapdos with the advantage. But he doesn't BP to Dugtrio here, even though Blissey is the obvious switch in and is what happens. So I don't know. The more time passes, the more things like that happen. It makes me think he really, truly doesn't have it. BP to Dugtrio, assuming the Dugtrio is EV'd correctly, is so obvious there. You Earthquake, you survive the Ice Beam, you kill the Bliss with the second Earthquake. I'd almost rule out Dugtrio based on what we just saw, because clearly you do that there if you have the opportunity, right? So if it's not Dugtrio, I don't know if we're looking at Gengar in the back, Arrow in the back, T-Tar in the back. Those things come to mind for me when I look at Mushi's team. Interesting that his BP choice here, knowing that the Blissey was going to stay in, instead of his own Blissey, instead of Starmie, he opts to go to Steelix here. I don't know what he thought the opposing Bliss was going to do. It was always going to attack there, right? I mean, Seismic Toss or Ice Beam, whatever. So he lets his Steelix eat an Ice Beam, which is not the biggest deal in the world. It's only 32%, and he's got lefties and so on and so forth. But what could have happened there that would have been really bad is the Steelix gets frozen by the Ice Beam. So I don't know that I like taking that risk for Mushi. I don't feel that he had to take that risk. I mean, what if you get frozen there? What was the upside of the Steelix play? I mean, Finch gets to choose his own destiny here. If he wants to fight the Steelix, he can. If he's afraid of it, doesn't want to get the Bliss boomed on, he can just switch. I don't see how the Steelix had a ton of upside here. And he again misses an opportunity. Maybe it's a mono purge for Finch because he hasn't been afraid of switching into Toxic at all. Mushi again doesn't pull the trigger and land a Toxic on Swampert like he could have there. It's got to be a mono purge because Finch has just played in a way where he gives no fucks about the Toxic possibility on the other end. And I don't think Finch is that level of bad. I don't think that Finch would be playing this loosely if the Toxic were devastating, and Toxic should be devastating on Pert. So the fact that he's playing in a way where he doesn't care about it, I've got to think that this is just a mono Pert with Refresh, where even if the Toxic landed, he can just click a button and make it go away. Certainly playing like that would be the case. Again, we've got a little bit of pause here. Finch has been fast all game. I haven't seen his timer go down all game. He's clicking very quickly. Come on, man, let's go. Let's get this over with. Just playing at a pretty brisk and competent pace. But it is Mushi, not all the time. He's not playing unreasonably slowly, but he is taking these little minute-long pauses every now and again. And this is yet another one of them. And it's interesting, too. Know what really puzzles me about Mushi? When he lost his championship finally to Fakes, he said to him in the comments of that game, it's a tie, right? Can we, what are we doing? This is a tie. Can we just start over or whatever? And Fakes is like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's not a tie. I'm going to eventually win this. It's just slow and grindy. And Mushi responded with something along the lines of, yeah, okay, if you say so. Like, basically kind of blowing him off, like, nah, man, it's a tie. It feels to me like Mushi doesn't necessarily really understand late games or understand how to break stalemates or how to break really grindy stall on stall matchups, which is fine. I'm not trying to criticize the guy. It just, that seems so weird to me with someone who spams these ultra defensive do nothing teams that are specifically designed to drag into the late game, because that's the way that Mushi plays. He's going to have way more grindy stall on stall 100 turn late game nonsense than the average player, because the teams that he plays are specifically trying to do that. So it's really weird. It's if you think that you're a fantastic player and that you are just going to outplay people in late games and you super know what you're doing in late games, then I get it. Then I get why you would play this way, because you think the longer a game goes, the more you can eke out little advantages over your opponent. He's going to eventually make a mistake. I'm going to be able to get him. I'm going to punish him when he slips up, but it doesn't feel to me like Mushi is that kind of player. It feels like he doesn't always understand how to make progress when the game gets really grindy. So it just, I don't know. I almost wonder if he'd be better served playing different kinds of teams. And not only just for the whole late game thing that I brought up, but also because anybody who's playing a tournament game against Mushi, they already know before they even start what they're going to be playing against. So you can counter team this or bring whatever strategy you want to bring, knowing that you're going to be against something like this. So he's not only exploitable because he refuses to diversify himself, but like I said, in the late games, not only for the him knowing how to break it, but from my end, the entertainment value, the commentary value. I mean, these are to each their own, right? Maybe you guys like this kind of thing. I think these games are boring to watch. I've long liked stall on stall, but it's different when like they both have spikers, both have spinners, both have Gengar, and there's like a lot of interaction with it. You switch in Gengar on their 4E, you have to be careful about the double switch that the pursuit tire doesn't come in. You have to be careful because 4E has Zap Cannon, you don't want to get nailed. You want to cheat and get a spin off, you spin into their Gar because they're going to switch out. Oh, what a play. That kind of stuff is fascinating. It's like a chess match, and when it's two really good players in that kind of match, that's like my favorite kind of Pokemon. I love watching those kind of games, but this is not that. This is, I mean, giving Finch a little bit of slack too, but I mean, his team is pretty standard, but this is two guys who both brought a big pile of do nothing, even more so, even more egregiously in Mushi's case. This is the exact same criticism that I gave him the last time he played CALLOUS Fight Night, and that his team seemingly, we haven't seen the last poke yet, so totally prepared to be wrong and take it back or what have you, but his team seemingly doesn't have any way to win other than establish spikes and just let the opponent kill themselves on the spikes. And there are so many things wrong with that strategy. This is like the old school McMegan mindset that I used to criticize him for as well. And the reason that this style used to be good and used to be popular is because it's very safe and very consistent, and because against idiots in early rounds of tours, round 1, round 2, whatever, it actually is fairly reliable for the opponent to just not have a fucking clue what they're doing and just beat themselves and eventually die to the spikes. But that is an outdated concept. Now, there are way, way more good ADV players, and even just like the average 50th best, 100th best, 150th best Joe Blow ADVer is still a lot more competent than they were then. The community is very unified. There are way more resources. There are way more teams. Most of the good players are pretty friendly and are totally willing to share information. And just the average ADV player now is way, way better, way more competent than they were all those years ago. So it's not that likely. I mean, again, there's always going to be morons. There's always going to be bad players, but against like just the average, somewhat competent guy, they're not just going to kill themselves on spikes and lose the game that way on any kind of consistent basis. The good players, especially, not just the average guys, but the guys that are actually good, are not going to beat themselves. Obviously, anybody can make a human error, anybody can throw whatever, but the good players are not going to beat themselves. You can't have these ultra passive, do nothing strategies and expect to beat players that know what they're doing. They know how to play against it, they have a plan, and they're not just going to eventually make 5 mistakes while you sit there and turtle and beat them. It just doesn't work that way. And like I said, I think Mushi's teams are kind of in that mentality, and maybe it works on ladder. I'm sure against Joe Blow at 1200 ladder, you can win like this, but I mean, look at the progress or lack thereof that he's made against an actual good opponent in Finch. Let's look at we're now 81 turns in. We're in the same game state that we've been in for the knockout occurred on turn 1. So we're in the same game state that we've been in for 80 turns. Let's look at the health for Finch's team. Swampert, 100%. Blissey at 70% with the ability to recover. Tyranitar at 100%. Starmie at 70% with the ability to recover, which it does right now. And obviously the unrevealed at 100%. So this whole entire time, 85 turns later now, the progress that Mushi has made in this game is he has done 30% damage to a Blissey. That's it. He's done nothing else in 85 turns. I think that should speak for itself. He's made absolutely zero progress this whole time. He's not remotely close to killing anything, and he has nothing even close to resembling offensive pressure other than the spikes. It's the exact same thing I criticized him for last time, and he obviously didn't watch or didn't agree with me, because here we are again, having major deja vu here with Mushi, with the do-nothing, ultra-passive, ultra-reliant on spikes crew that he brought here. And it is Wish Bliss for Finch, which is fine, is what it should be, is a good Mon. But as far as moving this game along, it doesn't go with that very well. That's just going to drag it out even more. It's going to make it go from impossible to super duper win the lottery twice in one day impossible for Mushi to break through. I mean, he already wasn't going to. With Wish Bliss on the other side, it ain't happening. The only way, and I mean, I would take back my criticism a little bit, not fully, because the team, even if it's the most aggressive Mon in the world in the back, the team is still lacking offense and still to do nothing. But the only way that Mushi has any shot to win this game, he basically has already lost this game, is if the last poke, which is still unrevealed, so we don't know, is something that can genuinely sweep, genuinely clean. It's a last poke Coon, it's a last poke Lax, it's a last poke DD Tar, something like that, that can genuinely set up and just clean the game. But yeah, I don't see it. I mean, even if he does have those things, and honestly, I'm skeptical. I think he's just so far down this mental rabbit hole and in this mentality that it's just going to be some fucking do nothing Pokemon. Best case, it's like an Arrow or a Gengar, but that's nowhere near enough. But yeah, I mean, even if that is the case, let's say it is hypothetically, it is a DD Tar, it is a DD Mence, it is some kind of sweeper, then the team is not built correctly around it because he needs to give it some kind of support to actually do damage to make it easier for the thing to clean. I mean, if you want to get really technical here, I would say that there's a difference between a cleaner and a sweeper. Something like a DD Mence is probably better at cleaning games than it is at sweeping games, but I mean, it can sweep by virtue of cleaning up the crap at the end, but I think a cleaner and a sweeper are not the same, and I think that a cleaner would not be the best fit here, and that he needs an actual sweeper. I think he would need something that can just set up and basically win the game on its own. I think he needs something that is just going to say, fuck you, I'm 6-0ing you. Just like a Coon that could just go 0 to 60 and sweep the entire fucking team once it sets up. Or a +6/+6 Lax or what have you. The Lax in this situation would not be that exciting because we just saw that T-Tar has Roar, so that would handle it unless he went down to last poke Lax. I can't think of too many things it would be. Most special threats would be diverted by the Bliss. I mean, if it were something like a Super Celebi or a Raikou or whatever, then the Bliss would handle it pretty well. It would need to be some kind of physical cleaner, which, like, again, this is where the, like, helping the thing out comes into play. So, like, all right, it's a DD Mence. Like, yeah, that could be Tar, that could be Swampert, but Swampert needs to already be at, 60% or whatever. You need to at least give it a chance to where you can just crit the thing, or you can rock slide flinch it once and then kill it, or something along those lines. But the problem is because there's just no offense on Mushi's team and no chip damage or whatever. If we look, the Swampert right now is at 100% for Finch. So if it were a physical sweeper in the back, good luck getting through Swampert. Progress? Yes! There we go. Goes ham with the Thunderbolts. Oh my god, and this whole time it has been a Dugtrio. That's awful. So, not only is this ultra do nothing for Mushi, there's nothing even close to a fucking sweeper or a cleaner here. But it's even worse than that, because earlier in this game, he could have BP'd with the Zapdos and killed the fucking Blissey. He could have killed it ages ago, and he just didn't. I do not understand. Not only is the team bad for Mushi, but why would you not kill the Bliss? The only thing I can think of, the only thing I can think of that would excuse that is if the Dugtrio is not EV'd to survive a Bliss Ice Beam. And if that is the case, you simply EV'd your Dugtrio incorrectly. It's as simple as that. I mean, all Dugtrio these days, damn close to all of them, should be EV'd to survive the Ice Beam. The whole point of that combo is so you can BP into the Dugtrio against the Bliss, You Earthquake or beat up, whatever it may be. They Ice Beam, you live, and then you kill them with the follow-up attack. That's the whole entire fucking point of that combo. So I don't know if he's had that all along, why he missed that opportunity earlier when he had the Zap on Bliss matchup and he had the BP, why he wouldn't go to Dugtrio. I think he went to Steelix or something stupid, but he could have just gone to Dugtrio, and we would have been so much further. He would have killed the Bliss on the other side. That would have opened up Zapdos. That would have opened up Starmie. It would be so much better for Mushi had he done that. And I have no clue why he didn't, but now here we are. Rant aside, we have made some progress. The T-Tar and the Zapdos traded. There's the Dugtrio dying, and there's Mushi conceding. Can't say that I'm sorry that this game is over or that Finch defeated Mushi. I don't have anything against Mushi at all as a person, but I really don't find him entertaining to watch. And the whole point of this channel is to provide entertainment for you guys, give you good matches. That just didn't seem like that fun to me. Every Mushi game is this grindy fucking do-nothing stall fest, and I don't know why he can't deviate from that, but, well, here we are. Nevertheless, Finch with the win. Thwarts off Mushi. You guys know what we need to do now. We have to figure out who he's going to be against next week. Oh boy, here we go. Alright. Nope, not CI3. I don't know why I clicked on that. That's vaguely like CALLOUS Fight Night. Alright, here's the pool. Good little pool we have here. Some good players. Jabba, Fakes, Marco, Endel, Johnny G. Some real quality in this pool. So let's see who Finch is going to be against next week. Random number generator. What was it? 82? 1 through 82. You guys know the deal. We go 8200 here. Generate that. Knock her down to 82. And whatever it is, we're just going to do it once. So generate. Oh, God, 64. I'm never going to be able to figure that out on air. All right, 24, 35, 46, 54. I already forgot the number. Looking for 64. So is that the 9/1/8? Is that what that came out to here? Let me just do that one more time. So 24, 35, 46, 54. Yep, that looks right to me. 61 and then 60, whatever, 7. So it's going to be the 9/1/8. I've never actually asked him. That's how I've always pronounced it. I don't know if it's supposed to be the 918th, but that doesn't sound as good to me. So the 9/1/8 or the 918th, whatever he is going to be against Finch next week. Till then, thank you guys for watching. Thumbs up if you can appreciate me putting up with Mushi games. And I'll see you guys next week.